What's up? It's your boy Kevin to turn on this motherfucking YouTube shit. Wow, what the fuck?
What's up? It's your boy Kevin on YouTube shit. Hey man, say man, we are lit that cheese man. Turn. Shit, motherfucker, they chillin' outside. Big crib in the gang, chillin' outside shit, man. Free Palestine, free Congo, Russia do your thing, and Texas stand the fuck up. Each day is a new day, be a better version of yourself. Never let somebody bring you down, always fight back. Never let somebody tell you who you are, but also never put yourself in a position alone. Let's stay humble. Let's get on a revolution on this movement. Keep Yahweh first. Coming to you as a black Hebrew Israelite, as a real Jew. We out here. Alright. Boom. Today, the motherfucking day, straight hooding outside. Big crib in the gang, straight hooding outside shit, man. Gang, ooh. Bruh, this case is literally like been going on for like a good minute, man. You know what I'm saying? I was even in jail, and we were watching the Diddy documentary in jail, bro. That shit was getting crazy. Hey, like I said, man, free a man Diddy, man. At the end of the day, man, the government want every black man behind bars, even if he did it or didn't do it. The government don't give a fuck about us. They want the money on. They want slavery. They want all that. You know what I'm saying? But like this, is Diddy gonna get let free though? Like for real? They trying to say that the only thing that Diddy gonna get charged for is like the abuse of hitting Cassie. All the other shit, they said that, hey, it look like he didn't do shit. You know what I'm saying? Hey, that might be one of the biggest W's for Diddy in a minute. You know what I'm saying? But they trying to say he might get hit with another lawsuit. I don't know, bro. This shit getting weird, bro. But they trying to let Diddy free. Cassie, now, she might be called as the master manipulator over everything. She about to get hit with a massive lawsuit from one of the victims. Bruh, that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Cassie is not a victim. But we got the videos, man. I hope y'all like and subscribe. Make sure y'all fuck with your boy, and let's get into this bitch. Hey, shout out to TMZ. Is Diddy walking free? Or what's going on?
Welcome to TMZ Live, Harvey Levin here. Charles here. So now that people have had time to process it, I gotta say, such a spectacular loss on the part of prosecutors in the Diddy case. Getting convicted of the Mann Act, he is going to get out within a year. I mean, based on based on sentencing guidelines, prosecutors are asking for a little more than 4.
Right.
And he's already served nearly a year. He's not going to get 4. He's going to get less than that. He could easily get 2 under the sentencing guidelines, and he's already served
been the
one.
biggest W comeback ever for Diddy.
Diddy will get out, but when he got back to prison, it was raucous.
On Wednesday night, when he walked in after, like you said, certainly he views it as a victory. The other inmates gave him a standing ovation.
He beat the feds.
Because he beat the feds. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said that he got basically a hero's welcome because they don't, the way the other inmates see it, they don't, this is such a rarity that someone beats the government.
Very rare.
That's
the government has such, when you look at the resources in Diddy, to get 70 Homeland Security agents to raid 2 houses, to spend the time to put 6 prosecutors on this, and all that they did, it is hard to beat
just to get free
that.
Damn.
And he had the money to hire a legal team that kicked their ass. I mean, they just did.
That's why part of the reaction of the other inmates sort of surprised me, because you could see it cutting the other way, that they would be resentful that a guy with lots of money and power was able to beat the feds while maybe some of the people in prison didn't have those resources. But it cut the other way. They just want to see the government beaten, and there's a real camaraderie in prison. And he apparently came in and was feted like a hero, a returning hero, after being told he had to go back and sit in the facility and not be released on bond, which I think was a bit of a stomach punch to Diddy. There's some of the sketches show he was quite upset with that ruling, but it must be nice to come home.
You know, I did some recon on this, and I was actually wrong on this because I thought he would get out, but they knew he wasn't, and they were prepared for it because they conceded domestic violence in open court. So they kind of knew that he was going to stay in until sentencing. Nonetheless, now there's been a shoot.
All them niggas who was talking shit, the celebrities went away.
Diddy was getting
they on suicide watch now.
For Cassie, it was getting hit with a lawsuit. A lawsuit that was filed by a man named Clayton Howard. He's one of the male escorts that had freak-offs with Cassie and Diddy. During the trial, he was referred to as Dave, but he says that not only did Diddy control him, but Cassie controlled him. So you have now Diddy and Cassie as co-defendants in this lawsuit that accuses her, Clayton claims that she got pregnant and had it with his child and had an abortion without telling him. Also that he got an STI from her. And he said all along, people during this trial, you had Cassie as the victim. She was victim one. But his experience, he says, is that she was very much in control. This is what he had to say about why he didn't file this lawsuit sooner.
One, I was in an economic position where I really needed the money. Two, Mr. Combs is incredibly powerful, and Miss Ventura had no problem in her use of that power. There's a side of her that people don't decide.
We know exactly who she is.
Sean Combs' power. The side that
anybody would take the 50 mil after all that shit that they said that he did to her.
So I was always afraid if I stopped coming, then I would start having problems. And look who she's dating.
Like, bro, come on, man. We can't be fools.
Feel comfortable that
dating a white man. Come on, man.
Just to avoid any
problem. They both use each other.
What's interesting about this, we spoke to one of the alternate jurors over the weekend, and he was saying, look, that he felt, and it sounds like the rest of the jury did too, that it wasn't so much a victim, although a lot of people on the outside say it was, as somebody who was consenting and was getting something out of the relationship. He's kind of echoing that in a way.
Yeah. That is certainly what Clayton was saying, that what she got out of it was power. And he said that he actually did want to file this lawsuit. He didn't want to wait until the trial was over. He wanted to file it before. He claims his attorney basically was in cahoots with the prosecutors and didn't want to make Cassie look bad. And that's why he eventually, Clayton, filed this lawsuit himself. He didn't file it with an attorney. So
it's a little bit strange that his attorney would not want to sully Cassie's reputation if he ends up suing Cassie. What is interesting to me about this is we did see glimmers of another side of Cassie during the criminal trial. Remember, there was an audio recording of her threatening another one of these alleged sex workers, and that showed a different perspective on who she was during this 11-year relationship. Sometimes consenting, maybe sometimes even embracing the power that Diddy had. So I'm not sure you can discard what Clayton is saying in this lawsuit out of hand, but I think both things can be true. She could have been a victim in some respects and a perpetrator in others, potentially.
This is Mackenzie from Bucks County. I think as an attorney, this case with Mr. Howard is not going to get far with Cassie as a co-defendant, in my opinion. This escort claiming that Cassie has a different side to her, that embraced the freak-offs and was trying to manipulate Diddy and Mr. Howard after we all just saw her testimony that she was also being used and manipulated and heavily into drugs at this point in her life, makes the accusation very misguided. Bottom line is that she's not the person who started the freak-off, so I would be willing to bet that he's not going to be awarded any monetary damages from her in this suit if it even moves forward at all.
She loves getting shit in the pissed on. Fuck about 30 niggas at a time.
What a lot of people said before we heard the jury speak. The jury is not embracing what you just said. They didn't embrace what you just said, that she was a victim.
At a civil trial, it's going to be up to the jury. It's going to be up to the judge to look at all the facts of the case, and the facts of the case are simply that Cassie was not the initiator of all of this.
Yeah, not the initiator, but what the.
But I think Clayton may suffer the same thing that Cassie did, in that if this actually goes to trial, that they're going to say, look, you were along with this. You were getting paid.
Exactly.
You were getting paid very well. So
you weren't being manipulated or forced into doing anything.
Right. So he may suffer the same fate that Cassie did.
I think he will.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on.
No matter where.
Hey, shout out to Law and Crime, man. We finna see what's going on, because they trying to sue Diddy again ahead of his prison sentence. So he won the first case. So what they trying to do now?
Dude, a juror speaks out, and also, apparently, Diddy receives a standing ovation from inmates. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I hope Diddy get free at the end of the day, but shit, his victims
We may have a verdict in the
motherfuckers,
Sean Diddy Combs trial.
trying
I'll
to
tell you
know.
what, this case, not over. No. Important hearing today. Sort of. We got to talk about why. Well, Judge Arun Subramanian had sent a tentative October 3rd sentencing date for Diddy on his convictions of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Remember, that's what he was convicted of. He was acquitted of racketeering conspiracy, and he was acquitted of the 2 sex trafficking counts. But he was on his convictions of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Remember, that's what he was convicted of. He was acquitted of racketeering conspiracy, and he was acquitted of the 2 sex trafficking counts. But he was convicted of these prostitution charges. And at one point, there was reporting that defense counsel for Sean Combs and prosecutors, they had then agreed to switch the date to September 22nd. And we thought, okay, because today's hearing was supposed to be about expediting the October hearing. Then they agreed to September 22nd. Now apparently it's back to October 3rd. This is all over the place. Very confusing. We'll get it straightened out. I gotta say it's interesting because Combs' defense counsel had originally stated last week, when it was the October 3rd date, that they wanted that sentencing expedited, meaning they wanted it to happen sooner. And one of the things that Sean Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, had said was, quote, the mother of some of his children had passed away many years ago. These kids, the 2 daughters here sitting in the middle of your Honor's second row, don't have a parent. Obviously referring to the death of Kim Porter in 2018, mother of Christian, Jesse, Delilah, Quincy. And by the way, remember Sean Combs was denied bail, so it wasn't even like he got to go home after the verdict. But clearly they wanted this expedited. They want his sentencing to happen as quickly as possible. They want him out of jail. They want him out of prison as soon as possible. And also it's interesting because prosecutors, they need time for the pre-sentencing investigation and report. Basically, that's when a probation officer interviews the defendant, looks at the history, the background, childhood, education, employment, criminal history, finances, the mental and physical health of the defendant. There are interviews that are conducted with family and friends. The officer looks at various school records, employment records, financial records. The officer could speak to the victims in the case, law enforcement that were involved in the investigation, provide all of this information
to beat a bad case like this
to the judge.
They use literally almost everything to take him out.
Discretion when it comes to the sentence. What could a sentence look like? Well, prosecutors indicated in a filing that before even doing a pre-sentencing investigation, Combs is looking at 51 to 63 months, a little over 4 to 5 years in prison. The defense seems to be pushing for 21 to 27 months, so a little over 1.5 to 2 years. But remember, Combs has been sitting in federal lockup since September at the MDC. So if he gets time served, he really wouldn't be spending that much time behind bars. Now, of course, they're the extremes. When you talk about transportation to engage in prostitution, the maximum for each count is 10 years in prison. You stack them together, you get 20 years. Okay, based upon the facts in this case, it seems highly unlikely he would get that much. Other side, you get the idea. There's no minimum for this charge. So could he get time served and walk free? Also seems unlikely, in that you're dealing with multiple instances of transporting Jane and Cassie, the 2 victims in this case, and men across state lines.
They're trying to say the other victim was 50 Cent.
This is an aggravating factor why I don't think he's just going to get time served. Hey everybody, this is another Law and Crime legal alert. If you received Depo-Provera birth control shots and were later diagnosed with a brain... We had this hearing. Let's talk about it. Bringing back onto Sidebar, you know her very well, Law and Crimes reporter Elizabeth Milner, who, as you may know, was inside that courtroom every day for the Diddy trial. She's with me here. It's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in like 2 months in person.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, and you did great reporting. You're here. We did sidebar recaps every day.
Yep. So she was in the Diddy trial.
Before we get into this monumental hearing, and I'm being sarcastic, you'll see it in a second, Combs' defense counsel filed a letter with the court that outlined a brand new schedule. Then after the hearing, it was changed. What was the back and forth in terms of schedules? What's happening?
I know. To your point, Jesse, it really was a back and forth. First, it was September 22nd. Now it's October 3rd. And it was something that the judge initially put on the schedule as Diddy's sentencing hearing. And then, back and forth happened. And now it's back to October 3rd, which I like to call Mean Girls Day. And so it was a lot of kind of going on here. And a lot of us were kind of confused as to, is it going to be September? Is it going to be October? But now it's official. It's going to be October. And there's a reason for it. There's a lot of stuff, like you had just mentioned, that both sides have to kind of work through. The defense was proposing that the probation office provide the parties with a pre-sentence investigation report, or a PSR, on or before August 29th. The defense objections to the PSR report will be filed on or before September 5th. And so a bunch of documents need to be filed. Diddy needs to be interviewed. Other people need to be interviewed. But it looks like we'll hear that sentencing hearing on October 3rd. It'll be kind of a big bow to a very long case. We'll see what the judge kind of goes for in terms of the sentencing. It could be, like you had mentioned, to the lower side, to the higher side. But I hate guessing in this trial at this point, because every guess that I've made has been completely wrong. So
we both agreed he would get convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution, racketeering, sex trafficking, both up in the air. I'm not surprised by the jury's decision, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and Jesse, just some more to the schedule. For any post-verdict motions, the parties proposed that the defense file any post-verdict motions on or before July 30th of this year.
Jury don't know who the fuck Diddy is. Everybody wants to know who Diddy is.
And then the government requests that if they be permitted to submit its summary of offense conduct on or before July 11th of 2025, and the defense doesn't object to that. So we'll see a lot more documents being filed that we're able to kind of talk about, hopefully a little bit more, but it seems that it's just a bunch of documents that'll be filed before the eventual sentencing hearing.
You know what I think is interesting? The post-trial motions. So typically speaking, those could be like a motion for a new trial, where the court would vacate the judgment and allow for a new trial, rarely granted, but may be done if the interest of justice so requires. There's a motion for judgment of acquittal, so the court could set aside the jury's verdict, allow the defendant to go free, and there's a motion to vacate, set aside, or correct a sentence, and I'm told that it's often successful for the purpose of correcting when there's a clerical error in the sentence. Now, assuming Combs has valid legal grounds to support any of this, I imagine he will file whatever motion he can for relief from either the verdict or the sentence. Then again, I don't know. He got a very favorable ruling. Obviously, he was convicted. He's not entirely happy with it, and his defense counsel explained that. But they also,
it sounds way more better than 40 years, bitch.
Jubilant, they were ecstatic, and I wonder if he gets a favorable sentence. Is he even going to challenge this? I mean, they seem happy.
Yeah, they seem ecstatic, because the emotions that kind of ran outside of the courtroom, it was kind of double that inside the courtroom, where all the defense attorneys were hugging, they were crying. So seeing them outside in the press conference, all kind of holding hands, going up, that was just a little slice of the cake from what we all saw inside that federal courtroom. But I think it can kind of go both ways, and that's mainly because Sean Combs is still behind bars right now. The judge didn't grant him bail even after the verdict. And I think his reasoning might give us a little kind of picture into what the sentencing might possibly look like, because the judge even pointed out during his denying of Diddy's bail after his conviction, which were on counts 3 and 5, kind of talking back to what had happened in June of 2024 with Jane and the violent altercation that happened over at Jane's apartment. And so I'm thinking, if the judge is already kind of on his mind about the whole domestic violence aspect and the physical violence that was exuded from the defendant, even just last year, I think it's possible maybe the judge, even if he hears from the family, even if he hears from Sean Combs' friends, that it's possible it might be kind of a little bit of a tougher sentence than maybe the defense was expecting.
Well, look, I think the defense might be wanting to take advantage of this, right? Now, the judge said, even though I'm denying bail and I'm looking at the violence factor, it's not a preview of what I'm going to do for sentencing. But I think this is the opportunity for the defense to submit any kind of mitigating factors and have the probation officer speak to his friends and family and talk about the impact of this. I mean, we just interviewed Charlucci the other day. So I wonder if they're saying, you know what? They said to Sean Combs, listen, let's wait for October. Gives us more time to present our case to Judge Arun Subramanian. And then we had the hearing today. This monumental hearing.
Great.
You've been in court for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
This was what, like 7 seconds?
I think maybe even less than, I would say, close to 5 minutes. So get all the way down to the courthouse. I'm like seeing everybody.
Which is not close from here.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's not. And it was hot outside too. So
all the way downtown.
Walking all the way down, or not, I didn't walk all the way downtown. From the subway to the walk to the courthouse.
Okay.
Get there, check in on my stuff. I would say the security check-in was longer than the actual hearing.
Okay.
So it was a remote hearing. We didn't see Sean Combs in person. We didn't see any of the attorneys on both sides. We didn't even see the judge. And so what had happened was we get inside kind of the overflow room.
Oh, the overflow room. Okay.
Yeah. So we get inside the overflow room. There's a big, giant screen. It's completely black. But then you hear Sean Combs' voice being like, Mark, are you there? And so it was kind of like one of those dial-in type of hearings. And so we heard Mark Agnifalo's voice. Then all of a sudden we hear the prosecution's voice. It was Christy Slavic. She was accompanied by Emily Johnson, both who work on behalf of the government. And then all of a sudden, Mark Agnifalo was kind of like, you know what, we were able to work everything out as far as our sentencing date goes. And then the judge's clerk is like, oh, okay, so both parties agree. And then this matter is adjourned.
And that was it. I worried that's what was going to be because when they had the letter basically working out the date, I was like, oh, what are they going to talk about? And then after that hearing is when they switched it back to October 3rd.
Yeah.
So not much there. You didn't see Sean Combs. Okay. Let's talk about some other things that have been going on. First of all, big news. There's a new lawsuit that came out against Sean Combs, okay? This is pretty disgusting. You have this unidentified John Doe who claims that in September of 2020, so relatively recently, he, Diddy, and others, they go to this warehouse out in L.A. that apparently contains some of the clothes of Notorious B.I.G., the rapper who was shot and killed in 1997, Sean Combs' friend. And people start taking drugs. They start wandering around this warehouse, and this John Doe claims that Combs started watching pornography on his phone, and that is when he claims, again, warning, pretty disgusting allegation, that Combs grabbed one of Biggie's t-shirts and pleasured himself with it, into it. I don't know how the best way to explain it, and even alleging that John Doe, or insisting that John Doe finish the job, so to speak, and he then claimed Combs threw the spoiled shirt onto John Doe and said, "Rip Biggie," then left. He also claimed that 15 years earlier, Combs told him to perform oral sex on him, reportedly suing for intentional infliction of emotional distress, sexual battery. Don't have a ton of information, but for somebody who has been following so many of the civil lawsuits that he now faces 66, 67, 68, how does this fit into all of them?
Well, it seems like it's kind of showing a pattern that all the lawsuits seem to kind of allege of power, control, sexual pleasure, all of that stuff. I would say the timing of it is a little surprising given that it came after the verdict a little bit, but I think it kind of, again, goes to that pattern that a lot of the other civil suits we've seen, and these can be by just different attorneys too. It's not always the same attorney who's filing the suit, but it seems like they all kind of go to this pattern, it seems. But again, I'm just more surprised at the timing of it and when this was filed too.
To be clear, there are lawsuits that he's facing that contain allegations that were never discussed in any way in the criminal case.
Right.
But in the criminal case, was it ever alleged that he sexually assaulted men? Was it ever alleged that he grabbed men or forced them to do things, or was it mostly focused upon women?
It seems like it was mostly focused on women, and that being the victims in this case. I think as far as just kind of the allegations towards men were really just having to do with the escorts or the entertainers, as they were also called in the criminal trial. But for the most part, it seemed like from what we heard in the criminal trial, which I know a lot of people are a little disappointed because they thought it would be a lot more, but really it was just kind of like just different isolated incidents involving two victims, being Jane and Cassie. But it seemed like there wasn't a lot of discussion about male victims in this trial, but there were little points that were brought up in terms of like the civil matters, those including like Bana and her civil claim, Dawn Richard and her civil claim. I think even during the cross-examination of Cassie, one of the defense attorneys, that would be Anna Esteval, she had asked, was the baby oil laced? And I was thinking back to the civil claims, because a lot of civil claims had, a lot of civil suits had claimed that
it wasn't laced.
that it was laced. Or, the civil suits claimed it was laced, but then in the criminal trial, Cassie had confirmed that the baby oil was never laced with any type of narcotics or anything like that.
Oh, shit.
By the way, Combs' legal team said in a statement to page 6, quote, Mr. Combs' trial and acquittal on trafficking and RICO charges proves what we have been saying all along. Mr. Combs never sexually assaulted or trafficked anyone. That people continue to broadcast and file false accusations, no matter how heinous and uncorroborated, is unfortunate, but Mr. Combs will not back down. He will fight for as long as necessary to win his full vindication. I talked about it on a previous sidebar, how he might tackle all these lawsuits, maybe motions to dismiss, maybe try to say, these Jane and John Doe shouldn't proceed under pseudonyms. If you can convince a court of that, they may be reluctant to continue the case if they have to expose their identities. He might try to get rid of them at initial stages as much as possible.
And he was successful at that at the beginning, too.
Yeah, a few of them, right? Yeah. So I want to ask you about the jurors, okay? So first, a juror has spoken out since the verdict. Not surprising. We had a feeling this would happen. This unnamed juror apparently spoke to ABC and said that the public reaction to this decision, quote, is highly insulting and belittling to the jury and the deliberation process. We spent over 2 days deliberating. Our decision was based solely on the evidence presented and how the law is stated. We would have treated any defendant in the same manner regardless of who they are. I have nothing else to say. Now, you watch the jury, okay? And we'll talk about what an alternate juror has to say. Watch the jury. Watch them day in and day out. What do you make of that statement?
I was surprised by that statement. Just a little bit. Only because, and I shouldn't say anything surprising to me when it comes to this trial. I found that statement surprising only because we clearly had heard the same evidence. Obviously, they saw a little bit more than I saw being inside the gallery. Some of the exhibits we weren't able to see that sort, and that included, the freak-off tapes, the hotel night tapes, all of that stuff. And so I was surprised by the jury's decision, mainly to count 2, not as
how crazy
sex trafficking Cassie. Not really surprised with count 1 or even count 4 even.
So racketeering and sex trafficking.
Yeah, I know. I'm just naming the counts, not actually specifying them or anything. But I get also why the juror made that very pointed statement too, because given the backlash that this jury has faced, given that a lot of people were kind of upset with the jury's decision. I mean, again, we had heard the same evidence. They saw a little bit more than obviously I saw. And so I respect the jury's decision. They were able to deliberate. I was surprised that they didn't deliberate a little longer. I'll say that. But, they're regular people, men and women, just like everybody else. And so the way they interpreted it is the way they interpreted it. And, even though I'm surprised by their outcome, I'm not surprised also by that statement.
That bitch for 30 days, 30 nights.
The juror says how the law is stated. See, that's what stood out to me. Because to me it says, hey, it says, hey, we couldn't magically turn this evidence into a federal crime that he was charged with. I mean, very specific elements of RICO and sex trafficking. We weren't tasked with finding him guilty of domestic violence. We were tasked with finding him guilty of beating Cassandra Ventura. Is it RICO? Is it sex trafficking? And, did the prosecution prove their case beyond the reasonable doubt? Clearly they didn't. You followed the case. Did you think it was razor's edge? You could say, you know what, I get it. I understand. At the same time, you could say, wait a minute, I think the prosecution ticked off all the boxes of that. Because I think it was to me, and I don't know, I'm reading the tea leaves, they probably looked at this and said, it just doesn't fit with what the prosecution's trying to tell. Everybody says the case, a lot of people say the case was overcharged. I don't know if that's true, but at the very least, it seems like they had struggle trying to say there was a criminal enterprise. They had struggle saying that there was force, fraud, coercion that was used against Cassie and Jane, that maybe they were willing participants or was consensual. I think it just muddied the waters a little bit. And not to take away from the testimony, but how the law is stated was interesting to me.
Yeah, it was interesting to me too, especially when it came to count 1, that being RICO conspiracy. At the back of my mind, I kind of wondered, were the jurors caught up on the whole conspiracy aspect? And did the closing arguments done by the defense really ring in their ear in terms of why weren't the co-conspirators called? Why was one of the alleged co-conspirators inside the gallery during the closing arguments? That being Fahim Muhammad, somebody that the prosecution had talked about at nauseum, in addition to Christina Coram, aka KK. So I think in terms of the conspiracy aspect when it came to the predicate acts of drug distribution and arson and even bribery, I felt like the prosecution made very strong cases for those arguments, especially those particular predicate acts. Maybe forced labor I kind of understood. Maybe some of the other stuff I kind of understood. But I was really surprised that they didn't check at least maybe
I bet they got paid,
two of those boxes. But then that would have made him guilty of conspiracy. And so I think the prosecution tried their best to really kind of point it out in terms of the law. They did, I think, a great job in their closing argument. But was it enough to sway the jury? Obviously not by the decision that they made.
What about this alternate juror? So this juror was not part of the actual deliberation, spoke out on CNN, unnamed, said, I understood the final verdict. Reading all my notes, looking back at the evidence, I probably would have reached the same conclusion as the other jurors. If we're looking at it from one side, it was definitely riveting and eye-opening, as he told Laura Coates from CNN, and that he didn't think Cassie didn't seem forced in the videos that were shown. It was actually pretty tame. There was a lot of rubbing oil and stuff on there. It wasn't anything too graphic. What'd you make of that?
It was interesting, especially I think the juror,
Cassie was involved.
Cassie this was a juror that a lot of us kind of noticed in the press line a little bit. He was very smiley. He seemed very approachable in the sense that he came into the courtroom all the time. He had a smile on his face. He was smiling over at the defense table, the prosecution table. He would look at us in the gallery sometimes. And so it was surprising to hear that he said the freak-off tapes or the sexually explicit tapes were tame in nature, because I always felt like watching them watch the tapes, because when that was being played, we weren't able to see it, we weren't able to hear it. All of the jurors had headphones on, so we were trying to just watch and glance over at their facial expressions, and I'm sure it can be kind of a blushing moment and a little embarrassing to watch those sexually explicit tapes and stuff like that, especially in a courtroom. Everybody's eyes are on you, and while over at the defense's table and even the prosecution table, everybody's just watching these tapes. And so I think maybe a lot of people have different definitions possibly of what force, fraud, or coercion even might consist of in a way, because for the government's allegations or the government's case, they were trying to say it only had to be one instance, whereas the defense was kind of like, okay, well, if 75 were consensual, what makes the 76 all of a sudden sex trafficking? So it seems like the defense made a very strong argument, a strong enough argument that I think that the jury kind of resonated with in some sense. But I'm really surprised that he said that the freak-off tapes were tame, especially given that there's been so much kind of controversy and talk about these tapes being so graphic and explicit.
There's been a lot of reaction. And how about this? I mean, Combs' spokesperson said that the rap mogul, received a standing ovation when it came back to the MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center, after this monumental verdict. Mark Agnifilo reportedly telling the Associated Press, they all said, we never get to see anyone who beats the government. What do you make of that? That surprise you?
Yeah, well, it doesn't surprise me, that statement, because he made the same statement to the Combs family inside the courtroom, too. The standing ovation also not very surprising, because, they're all a bunch of detainees. They're all probably wanting somebody to come back with a win, and, of course, the win being from the mogul himself, that being Sean Combs. I think, they probably gave him the exact amount of love maybe they would give other high-profile defendants who are also incarcerated at that same detention facility. So it's not surprising that people were happy for him. But I think people also have to remember he's still there at MDC Brooklyn, and it's because he's still convicted on 2 of the charges that he was found guilty of. And so I'm not surprised at all that the detainees there had that very kind of welcoming reaction to his verdict.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to keep a careful eye on what happens next, but it seems all eyes right now, October 3rd for sentencing, although I will tell you, let's be on the lookout for some of those motions. They could be very interesting to see, but October 3rd is going to be the big day. I'm sure you're going to be there for sentencing.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Elizabeth Milner, great seeing you.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar.
Shout out to Tough News TV. So now Cassie, like y'all been hearing, is getting sued by an escort for giving out STDs and more shit. Hey, that's what we trying to tell y'all, man. I think Cassie was the mastermind behind all this BS. Like, for you to sue Diddy when you a part of the bullshit, you just try to look yourself like the victim before You can get hit with the shit. Shit crazy. She threw Diddy on the bus when she was the whole time doing most of the work for it. She the one getting fucked on.
What's going on, y'all, and happy 4th of July to everybody who celebrates this holiday. I do want to be conscious of those who don't celebrate holidays at all, but I want to know what you guys are doing. Drop down in the comments. Are you guys cooking? What are the festivities today? I hope everybody is happy and healthy this morning. So let's just hear. So you have a former escort for Puffy and Cassie by the name of Clayton Howard that is suing them because he's saying that Cassie gave him a STD and also she was pregnant by him and got rid of the baby without letting him know about it. And Howard goes on to state that after those chain of events transpired, that Cassie continued to have unprotected SEX with him. Now, Howard also claims that he started working with Diddy and Cassie back in 2009 and that it lasted for 5 years. I believe he said that he was getting paid $5,000 to $7,000 a pop every time he hooked up with them. But he goes on to say that he felt that he was used for entertainment and for the purposes of commercial SEX, just to satisfy their sexual fetishes. Now, Howard goes on to state that he was basically trafficked and that Diddy and Cassie rubbed him, and I'm paraphrasing there. They manipulated him and traumatized him while they themselves were in a toxic relationship. And he said that the relationship often turned violent. And so basically he's saying that he wants some of that $20 million that Cassie got. I mean, he's going after Diddy as well, but he's blaming Cassie for manipulating him into taking X and having unprotected SEX. And he also says that she would order him to beat his meat for hours on end, resulting in tears, skin peeling, and scabbing to his blank. You know what I'm talking about, right? Now, Howard goes on to say that his dealings with Diddy and Cassie left him with physical and psychological injury, lost wages and benefits, medical expenses, pain and suffering, emotional distress, mental anguish, plus loss of enjoyment of life. Now, in this situation, I'm going to give him the same grace because I'm a fair individual that I've given all of the victims, right? If this man is saying that he was manipulated and things of that nature and felt that he was taken advantage of, I gotta respect it. But at the end of the day, I can question some things. I don't know how somebody can manipulate you into having unprotected SEX. I mean, he said it was based off of the fact that Cassie manipulated him into taking X, but how can somebody manipulate you into taking X? You're a grown man.
Man, unless they lace your shit.
Zoro.com. Man, no means no, right? You know what I'm saying? Stand on business. And then you kept going back, taking that $5,000, right? You was making some type of living off of Cassie and Diddy. So I don't understand that dynamic, but still, I'm going to give him the same grace because I wasn't there. And I will take in consideration that he probably had a little bit of jitters because Diddy was there. He didn't know what type of issue it would be if he said no. He probably was afraid. I don't know. But it is said, allegedly, that Cassie deemed him to be the favorite person that she hooked up with when they did those freak-offs or whatever. And given the fact that he became knowledgeable that she became pregnant with his child, maybe he caught feelings over Cassie. You never.
But the other nigga did too.
You know what I'm saying?
What,
because
the nigga named the Punisher?
He's upset with the fact that
the
she
Punisher thought he was the only dude fucking
Or maybe I'm wrong. He's just adding that in there to add insult to injury
Cassie's getting fucked by the whole
But at the
fucking
end of the day, I will say that if he can prove that Cassie passed down something to him that sent him to the health department, you know, that's something that basically
I need a doctor. A doctor knows.
I don't know. I don't know, but it just seems as though that Cassie and Diddy. I mean, this is just a foul situation. And one day Cassie's kids are going to learn about all of her activities. I will say that, you know, her husband, Alex Fine, he has to be a strong man because I don't know if I could be with someone that has been through multiple golden showers, passing down things that
the white man didn't give a fuck. He said, "Fuck it."
Health department,
nigga, give me the money on
individuals, and it's just a lot. It's a lot. I know everybody has a past, but I'd rather not know about the past. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, we'll pay close attention to see how this thing.
If your girl got gang banged by 30 niggas, would you want to know?
Our coach from CNN sat down with one of the alternate jurors, and he talked about certain aspects of the freak-offs tapes and the fact that Dawn Richard came across extremely incredible during her cross-examination and things like that. I want you guys to take a listen at this soundbite, and I'll be back.
Now is an alternate juror who was in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. George is joining us right now. This was 7 weeks of your life, hearing all of this testimony. You were an alternate. You did not deliberate, but did you agree with the final verdict?
I understood the final verdict, and I think because I took a copious amount of notes overall. I took 350 pages worth of notes. Because at the end, we weren't told who was an alternate, who was the main juror until literally the last second when they were reading when the judge was reading his entire statement at the end. It was like, the first 12 are the jurors, the last 5 are the alternates. So we didn't know, even in the jury room, no one treated everyone, we all were equal because we didn't know who was who.
Would you have acquitted him on RICO?
I think reading all my notes and looking back at the evidence, I probably would have reached the same conclusion as the other jurors.
Okay. What was it about that charge?
I don't, the thing with because we were asked and the judge had instructed us that we have to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think there was always a little bit of doubt in people's mind. And I think it was a tough case to prove, especially the first one. And there was always a little bit of doubt there, even from the beginning.
Why did you doubt?
I think some of the charges, some of the witnesses, if you look at it one way, but then when you were listening to the defense, you could see it their way as well.
Were there any witnesses that made you think, I don't believe this?
There was one that I think unanimously we kind of all said like, wow, like it was almost like watching like TV. It was like when I think her name was Dawn Richard, that one. When she on cross-examination. I mean, I never saw such a cross-examination. It was very impressive to watch.
What was it about it?
I think just how the defense, got into her and really made her, look very not credible. I mean, I even wrote.
All right, so you guys just saw and heard all of that, and it's important to note that he did not have a vote within this verdict or whatever. He was just an alternate juror, but at the end of the day, for him to come on a platform like CNN and basically say that he didn't see the RICO really supports a lot of us who had the same ideology that didn't see the RICO.
I told y'all niggas,
Now, let me say this. I believe that there's a lot of people that are caught up in their emotions because of that video of Diddy putting paws on Cassie. And trust me, guys, I understand because it was hard for me to separate my emotions. You want Diddy to rot in jail, to be honest, based off of that video. But we have to separate our emotions and understand what he was actually on trial for. And what he actually was on trial for, he was not guilty of. I mean, at least the racketeering charge, right? We know that he was guilty of the 2 other charges, but the RICO, he wasn't guilty of. Now, listen, I know that some of us feel that the justice system failed us, but when you sit back and you just really dig deep and you look at the absolute facts, Diddy was fairly charged here. He was fairly charged. I know some of y'all are not going to like my position on this, but he was fairly charged.
If it don't add up,
me up to be a fair individual,
you must
and I have to stand on business and not go with this narrative that Diddy should be locked up forever based on what he was charged with. He was fairly charged. They did it on their own. If Diddy gets out later on throughout the years, he's indicted for the deletion of Kim Porter. Guess who's going to be in Los Angeles covering that story? Yep. Yours truly. I'm going to be on the ground just like all of those independent journalists who are covering this Diddy trial. Yeah, I'm going to be out there in Los Angeles, and you can trust and believe I'm going to be serving up the utmost professionalism, honesty, and dignity while I'm covering that trial. So I got my fingers crossed because I feel like Diddy is not out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on to a sad story. Big Boy from Outkast, his uncle was deleted in Atlanta.
Shout out to Ock. This is Cassie accuser. Me too took a loss with Cassie because she lied. Cassie lied just even comes to all victims. Bro, this the dude who trying to sue Cassie.
So good morning. I am Dave, the man who has just sued Cassandra Ventura for damages involved in the Sean Combs sex trafficking trial.
And I'm looking through social media, and I see a lot of the women out there, particularly black women like myself, who choose to victim shame me and try to do everything they can to discredit me.
It's always them trying to call the kettle black, but when something happens to black women, they start trying to cry out for everybody helping the move.
So let me tell you something, you women out there who would like to insult me. This is my story. I was paid by Cassie, Cassandra Ventura, for 8 years to be her male provider. I didn't have to be the best looking guy. I was the best in bed. And because I was the best in bed, guess what? I was given this arrangement. I was coerced. I was drugged. I was manipulated with promises of money and gifts for over a period of 8 years to continue to be this woman's provider at her expense and at the expense of Diddy. Now, at the time,
you wasn't the only one though slanging on her.
I didn't create this conflict with Cassandra Ventura. She created it with me. She's the one who decided to bring up things that happened over 10 to 15 years ago to hold Sean Combs accountable for what was a partial truth. She's the person who introduced me to the U.S. Attorney's Office. She's the person who told the U.S. Attorney's Office about our relationship. So in essence, those out there who want to hate on me, who want to say that I'm attacking Cassie, you should realize that
Cassie ain't no innocent person.
Your idol did this to herself. She exposed herself to liability when she got on the stand and decided to mention me as the male escort who was with her when she overdosed and Diddy made her have sex with him. That was a lie, people. Cassie had just woke up from sleeping 8 hours. Myself and Sean Combs were exhausted. We wanted to go home.
Damn.
Cassie's the one who forced that sexual encounter.
Cassie's a master manipulator, bro.
Made her have sex on her menstrual cycle. I can't speak for anyone else but myself. But I know the one time that did happen, that Sean Combs was not responsible for that. That Cassie, in a drunken, intoxicated, hormonally imbalanced state due to her period, manipulated and forced herself on me during her menstrual cycle. And what I mean by that is I had no knowledge she was on her menstrual cycle because the room was completely dark. She manipulated the room. She manipulated the environment to get what she wanted.
She was trying to get your ass with that blood shit.
Who should have been
Make your ass
You're on your
fall in
period.
love with
That's
her.
disgusting, and I deserved more respect than that. As a man, if I had laid down with a woman and forced myself on her and orgasmed in her and she got up and it was leaking out of her, so by statute, by case law definition, Cassandra Ventura sexually assaulted me. I'm not looking to destroy Cassie. I've given Cassie more than a year to settle this before things got out of control. The problem is she's being supported by women like you who choose to attack male victims instead of accept the truth, which is that a woman could.
Y'all want us to support y'all women, which we do, but then when it's time for y'all to support men, y'all make fun of niggas. Like, what the fuck's going on?
If you hurt some women, they will do everything in their power. If you hurt some men, they'll do everything in their power to hurt you.
That's a fact.
But I want to end this by saying this. Cassie did this to herself.
That's a fact.
They say he who sets out on the course of revenge should dig 2 graves. People, Cassie dug the grave that is Clayton Howard herself. Cassie got on the stand trying to destroy Diddy. She should have took her $20-30 million and walked into the sunset, people.
Right.
She should have never gotten on the stand and created further liability for herself by telling more of the lie that she created to get this man sent to prison for his
crime. She can't do that though. She likes the fame. She likes the clout. She likes the attention. Eyes all on her.
Clayton Howard is a victim of Cassandra Ventura. Clayton Howard didn't ask to be in a relationship with Cassandra Ventura while she was sleeping with numerous men per week. Again, you all think I was a nasty male prostitute sleeping with women, all different women all the time. It actually didn't work like that. To have certain types of people that can pay you that well, what you really have to do is you have to focus on people who are affluent. And affluent people don't engage in activities like that. So I might have had a client once a month. The truth is I was only a male escort for 2 years. I continued in the profession because Cassie and Diddy continued to pay me very well, and I was an ex-con. I needed money. I was trapped in a situation. I'll admit that. I didn't know what to do. But does that mean I should be victim shamed because the same thing that happened to women all the time happened to me as a man? No. And for those women out there, for you black women who choose to shame me as a black man for telling my truth, you should be ashamed of yourself.
That's a fact.
That's really pretty much all I have to say. You will not see me too much in the media. I don't need the public to believe me. I just need a jury of my peers and 12 people to believe me in the court. And thanks to the testimony of Cassie during the trial of Sean Combs, I have that. Thank you for watching. Stop victim shaming. Thank you.
Cassie was not a victim.
Jurors, an audio recording of Cassie
Yeah, you don't have to see it, but it's my life and I'll kill you.
No, I will kill you if you don't show me right now. I will kill you, and I will hide you, and I will cut you up and put you in the dirt right now. Pull it up. If you have it, pull that up. Because if not, I'm going to kill you, and then he's going to kill you again. So just do it. Pull that up right now. You got that pull that up. I'm going to kill you. You don't understand. I don't give a I've never killed anybody in my life, but I will kill you because you're with me. You're with me in my life right now. If I saw a video of you doing anything that you didn't want people to see, I would show you the video so you could tell me what the happened.
Bitch,
you're playing games with me, telling me you saw some. Now you're saying you didn't see some. You're with me. I'm going to you up. I don't think you understand. And it's not going to be my hands, and it's not going to be blood on my hands. Someone else is going to do it. So you have to tell me right now, and I'm recording this whole shit. FYI, tell me what the you're talking about. Because this is not cool. We're not playing. I'm not playing with you, Zujit. Like, you saw some yes, you're my brother. Be my brother and tell me what you saw.
So she was recording it?
Cassie says she never wanted anyone to watch the video and insists he show her the footage.
Well, this shit's getting wild.
And a couple times she tells him someone other than her will murder him. The video was screened for jurors May 16th when Cassie was being cross-examined. And the event is from March 2014 and it happened in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Over like
Cassie
10,
said
11,
she approached
12 years.
after he claimed he'd seen her in a freak-off video.
If you crave nature but still...
Alright, we back. So y'all see from the sheriff, bro. Diddy might be free, man. They trying to see about October the 3rd so he get his sentence. You know what I'm saying? They trying to say that, hey, she did everything was like it wasn't coerced. Like she was willing to do the shit. But Cassie, man, that's a different situation. She spreading STDs, getting pissed on, shitted on, threw up on. This shit getting wild, man. Like, bruh, like some of these niggas thought that she was the only person that they was fucking. She was fucking the whole football team, the whole squad, getting gangbanged. You know what I'm saying? This shit getting wild. You know what I'm saying? But Diddy about to get hit with a lawsuit 3 on some foo-foo shit. I don't know if it's gonna stick, cause they gonna restart the whole trial over again. I don't know. This shit getting wild, bro. But the victim came out, talked about Cassie. Bruh, this shit is getting wild, man. Hey, I feel bad for the people who counted Diddy out, who talk shit about Diddy, who's supposed to be his friend in the list he put out. Boy, when he got that motherfucker, it's about to be hell to pay. Hey, man, the Diddy parties, they continue, head ass. This shit about to get wild. But yeah, man, that's the video, man. Hope y'all like, subscribe. We out the bitch hood and outside. Big Crip gang.
Hey, Dad, you know, dog, when we link up, dog, this shit be legendary. You know this instrumental, you the engineer on it, so Kodak everywhere.